So in the previous lecture we have discussed about the construction of a transformer, where we have talked about core type and shell type uh, transformers, and we said that generally for power transformers we prefer core type of transformers. Okay, and then we have talked about the working principle of a transformer, where we have seen the how the induced EMF is generated on the secondary coil. Okay, and then we have come up with one ratio, that induced EMF on primary side, the ratio of the induced EMF on the primary side and the secondary side is equal to the number of turns on the primary side to that of the secondary side. Okay, so we have seen this expression, E1 by E2 is actually N1 by N2. And then we have also seen that this E1 induced EMF, the RMS quantity of the induced EMF on the primary side, it is given by 4.44 F phi m N1, and E2 is 4.44 F phi m N2. Okay, so as we have discussed in one of the previous lectures of magnetic circuits, where we have talked about the importance of the applied voltage and the frequency, so we can see that that will apply here as well, right? So the flux in the machine, either you take from the primary side or from the secondary's equation, they would be, if you'll see that, it would be E1 upon 4.44 F N1. Okay, let's say this is equation 1 and this is equation 2. So either from equation 1 you can find this phi m would be this, or from this second expression this phi m would be E2 by 4.44 F N2. So since this common flux, this is the flux is the same flux is actually linking the primary coil or the first coil and the secondary coil. So with these relation also you can actually calculate the ratio of E1 by N1 and E2 by N. Okay, so here also the induced EMF, the flux in the core will actually depend upon the induced EMF. Now I am considering a case of a ideal transformer first. So today we will talk about ideal transformer. We'll put some conditions which would actually replicate an ideal transformer. So this ideal transformer we will be dealing with under no load condition, and then under load condition. Then after that we will talk about transformation ratio and impedance transfer. Okay, so for ideal transformer, so we'll assume that this similar kind of construction is there, and for ideal transformer the first condition is this core is the ferromagnetic core, it has very high permeability, very high or infinite permeability. That means to establish the a desired amount of flux, it does not need, or very less or zero, almost zero magnetizing current or MMF. Okay, because if the permeability is infinite, so in terms of reluctance you can think of that reluctance would be 0. Okay, because reluctance is LC by mu naught mu R into A, right? So infinite permeability means the reluctance is 0. So if the reluctance is 0 or almost 0, then to establish a flux, we would be needing a very minimal or almost 0 mmf. Okay, so mmf is Ni. So what I can say is number of turns into the current. So almost 0 current would be required at that time. Okay, so I'm putting this condition for an ideal transformer, very high permeability or infinite permeability. Okay, and second condition is permeability of the core. Okay, no core losses. Okay, that means no hysteresis and AD current losses. Third condition is the windings either on the primary side or the secondary side, this winding N1 or N2, they does not have no winding resistance. And fourth condition is no leakage flux. That means whatever flux is produced in one winding or whatever flux is produced because of the current which is flowing in these windings, there is no leakage of it. Okay, so all the flux which is being produced in these two windings, they are actually linking with each other. So no flux is escaping out of these core. Okay, no flux is escaping out of these core, and entire flux stays within this core. Okay, so there is no leakage flux. Now with these conditions, so I'm dealing with for no load condition. For no load condition, since it has infinite permeability, so magnetizing current or excitation current is almost 0. So now you may question that, so if the current is 0, so how the flux is produced, right? But what I'm saying is, let's say whatever flux which I want, the moment I have given a voltage there. Okay, so with minimal current or almost 0 current, that flux would be produced in the core. Okay, so no magnetizing current or excitation current is almost 0. So core losses is also not there. Now, so whatever voltage you have applying at the primary winding, whatever voltage is being applied here, so if you apply the KVL, because there is no winding resistance and no leakage flux, so if this is your V1 RMS quantity of this applied voltage V1, so if you write the KVL here, V1 T is actually or minus E1 T is actually equal to 0. That means V1 T is equal to E1 T. Okay. Similarly, so in terms of RMS, we can write that V1 is equal to E1, because whatever voltage you are applying here, the same voltage is appearing across the coil. The same voltage is being induced across the coil. Okay. Similarly, in E2, let's say E2 has been, if this terminals here on the coils, if I say that voltage is V2, so the moment the induced EMF is there on the secondary coil, and because there is no winding resistance, so same will apply here as well. So E2 would also be equal to V2, and V2 is equal to E2, because no voltage drop, nothing. Okay. So in the previous expression, we have seen that E1 by E2 is actually equal to N1 by N2 is actually equal to V1 by V2. Okay. And this we say as transformer ratio A. So depending upon this turn ratio, actually we can decide whether it would be a step up voltage or it would be a step down voltage. A step up voltage means the voltage at the primary side would be higher. Okay, so if a is if a is less than if a is less than 1, then that means n2 is higher, right? So that means e2 is higher. So if a is less than 1, we can say that it is a step up transformer. And if a is greater than 1, then we can say it's a step down transformer. A is greater than 1 means n1 is higher. Okay, so if n1 is higher, that means e1 is higher or v1 voltage is higher as compared to v2. So we can say that it is a step down transformer. So it's a step down transformer. So now, can we draw the phasor diagram here, for the phasor diagram for the flux and the induced EMF? So phasor diagram under no load condition. So we have seen that this flux phi t is phi m sine omega t. Then E1 t was 4 point, or I would say, so E1 t was phi m n1 omega sine of omega t minus 90 degree. So this omega is 2 pi f. So if you want to draw the phasor diagram for it, so if I say that, okay, flux phi would be, I'm taking as reference. So obviously the current also, though this current is is almost zero or very small, so this current Im or magnetizing current Im would be in phase with the phi, right? So this IT or I naught, I know no load current I naught would also be same as that of phi, right? So it would be some quantity Im, I naught t or no load current would be Im sine omega t, right? So this would be Im. Okay, if I'm drawing the, this is phi m. If I'm drawing for the peak, you can draw for the RMS as well, no issue. Then what would be E1t? So E1t, if you will see, it would be here lagging the flux by an angle of 90 degrees. So this is E1 here. And similarly for the, if it is a step up transformer, so then this would be E2 here. Okay. So this is one of the convention. Another convention is, let's say in this circuit, if I have already marked the polarity, okay, if the polarities have been marked, so if you apply the KVL here, so what you can see is V1 rise in the voltage is actually equal to the, like in this circuit, in this primary circuit, if you see V1, which is a rise in the voltage, okay, would be equal to the E1t, right? That's the voltage drop in this winding. Okay, so if the polarity has been marked, so what you can see is, so if the polarities has been marked, then I need not to consider the Lenge's laws equation, right? That negative sign for the Lenge's law. So if phi t is phi m sine omega t, okay, so induced EMF would be n times, based on Faraday's law, so E1t would be n of d phi t upon dt. So this would be actually equal to n omega cos omega t. Okay, so n omega, this is n1 omega cos omega t. Okay, because I've already marked the polarity, that's why I'm not considering the negative sign here. Okay, so this is equal to n1 omega sine omega t plus 90. So in this phasor diagram, where would be V1? So there are two conventions of it. So what we can see that if we have marked the polarity, then this E1t would be if I want to draw the phasor diagrams for it. So if this is my phi m or phi t flux and current, obviously here only I naught or Im here, okay, in phase with the flux. So with this, if I have already marked the polarities, then what we can say is this is E1. Okay, the RMS quantity of E1 would be 90-degree leading with the flux. So E1. Similarly, we would be having the E2 here. E2. Now, what about V1? So by looking at the KVL here, we can directly say that V1 is actually equal to E1, right? But nothing can be said about the power. Okay, so if I'm energizing this transformer by a voltage source V, so there are two conventions. So in this convention, what we say is we show the primary voltage opposite to the induced voltage, mentioning that or showing that the power, the source is actually sending the power. Okay, so in this you can see that this source is actually sending the power, right? Current is coming out of the positive terminal. So I'm saying the power is being delivered, and for the transformer, the induced EMF, power is being absorbed. That's why I have shown in the opposite direction here, V1 and E1. Another convention is that V1 and E1, they are shown in phase with each other, and power, like one has to keep that in his mind that okay, if I'm talking about V1, so the power is actually being sent to the transformer, and for the transformer, power is being actually absorbed by the transformer. Okay, so this was the case under no load condition. Okay, when this switch was open. Now we'll take up the ideal transformer case under load condition, and let's say the uh, the primary has been energized and the dots has been marked here and here. Let's say you have a switch here and which is connected to a load. So this load impedance is Z at an angle of. So if this switch S is open, that means the transformer is not loaded. So we have two coils here, coil 1 N1, number of turn here, and N2 here. Okay, so how do we sometime the coil which has been energized by an external source, that coil we say it as a primary winding, and the coil on which we have the induced EMF, okay, which is connected to the load, so that coil we say it as secondary winding. Okay, so this side is the primary winding, this is the primary winding. So for primary winding I am writing 1 degree WDG, and winding, for winding I am writing WDG. So this is, and the secondary winding is this one. Okay, so under this condition, if this source has been energized by a sinusoidal if the primary winding has been energized by a sinusoidal source, so obviously the core is having infinite permeability, so it will draw very minimal or almost zero current to establish the flux here. Okay, so that flux phi will actually depend upon the voltage which I have applied there, right? Because phi m, that will depend upon V1 or E1 upon 4.44 F N1, right? Or N, if it is V1, then this is N1. Okay, so depending upon the voltage and the applied frequency, there is the desired amount of the flux would be established there, and the current required for it would be almost zero. Okay, now so this current, let's say I naught, is almost zero, right? This no load current is almost zero. Now what will happen if you connect this switch, if you turn on this switch? So before turning on this switch, obviously in this secondary winding you have the induced EMF, let's say that E2. Okay, so the moment I have turned on this switch, so this will draw the current because EMF is there, load impedance is there, so it will draw the current, right? So it will draw the current, let's say I2 here. Okay, now the moment I2 current is actually flowing here in this direction, right? Because we have said that in the previous discussion that if the current enters into the dot, so from the other winding, from the dot, the current will leave out. That's the general convention. So here current is coming out of this end. So now what will happen? So obviously this current will actually, if you see the flux produced by this current I2, if you apply the right hand rule, what you can see is, if you put your four fingers in the direction of the, in the direction of the current, your thumb will give me the direction of the flux. So what you can see is the flux produced by it would be countering the, let's say, the flux produced by, let's say, phi 2t would actually try to counter the flux which was already being established here because of the primary voltage here, right? So it will try to reduce the flux. Okay, so the moment, let's say, this flux has been reduced, so now what will happen? So if the flux has reduced, that means the induced voltage on the primary winding has to reduce, right? So the moment, so after switch S is on, I2 will flow out of secondary winding. So this will try to counter the flux. So I2 will produce a flux, right? And that flux will try to counter the flux produced, let's say this phi 2 T is the flux produced by the current I2, let's say. So that will try to counter the flux phi 2. So it will, phi 2 T will try to counter the main flux, counter the main flux, counter or opposes the main flux phi T. Okay, that means phi T will reduce. So but if phi T reduces, this implies E1 will reduce. So if E1 reduces, you see the KVL here, V1 was actually equal to E1, right? So if E1 reduces, that means V1 is not equal to E1, because transformer cannot reduce the voltage of the applied source, or this the source voltage cannot reduce the source voltage. Okay, So if E1 reduces, so that means V1 is not equal to E1, right? The Kirchhoff's voltage law, KVL, will violate, right? Which is not possible. So KVL will get violated. So that is not possible. So what will happen now is, instead of reducing the flux, an equal amount of, an equivalent amount of current would be drawn from the source in such a way that, you know in such a way that the MMF balance is there. The MMF produced earlier was N2 and I2. Because of the loading, N2 I2 MMF is being produced there. Okay, so an equivalent amount of MMF would be required from the primary source, and that would be equal to N1 I2 dash. Okay, so now this I naught current will actually carry I2 dash. So once again, let's say if I have turned on the switch here, so obviously the current will come out from the load, and the moment the current comes, the if you turn on the switch here, the current will come out from the secondary winding. And if the current comes out from the secondary winding, then it will the direction of it is in such a way that it will try to counter the main flux there, phi t. So, and that will try to reduce the flux. Now if this flux gets reduced, that means E1 will get reduced, and if E1 gets reduced, that means the source voltage has to be reduced. But source voltage one cannot reduce, right? That is not in our hand. So if V1 is not getting reduced, that means KVL will violate there, right? So what it will do is, it will draw the equivalent amount of MMF from the primary source to adjust this N2 and I2, so that the flux in this core remains same. So if I try to draw the MMF, and reluctance obviously is almost zero. So if the secondary MMF was N2 I2, so the primary MMF would be equal to N1 I1 dash, or sorry, N1 I2 dash. Okay, so with this expression 3, let's say what you can write is N2 I2 is actually equal to N1 I2 dash. So I2 dash upon I2 is actually equal to N2 by N1, and this is equal to 1 by A. So this I2 dash, what I can write is this I2 dash, let's say I'm saying it, this is I1, so N1 I1 is equal to N2 I2. Okay, so I1 by I2 is actually equal to N2 by N1 is actually equal to 1 by A here. Okay, and we know that V1 by V2 is equal to N1 by N2. Okay, so multiplying these two expression, what you can write is V1 I1 upon V2 I2 is actually equal to N1 by N2 into N2 by N1, which is equal to 1. So V1 I1 is actually equal to V2 I2. So what we can observe is the the power on both the sides of the transformer remains same. Okay, so this is the power rating of the transformer. So power rating of the transformer S is given by V1 I1 or equal to V2 I2. Okay, and this is generally in VA, KVA, MVA. Okay, the rating of the transformer, the unit is either VA, KVA or MVA, because based on the power factor, the real power would be calculated then. Okay, so it is S would be VA, KVA, would be in VA, KVA or in MVA. Okay, so now we will try to draw the phasor diagram of an ideal transformer under loaded condition. Okay, so phasor diagram. Okay, so what we have said that Z was at an angle of theta. So obviously I2, if V2, with respect to V2, I2 would be actually would be at an angle of minus theta, right? So if phi is the flux here, almost zero, or magnetizing current Im would be here, almost zero. Okay, so E1 was here, and let's say E2 was here. So E2 is actually equal to V2. Okay, so I2 would be lagging the V2 by an angle of theta here. What about I1? So if I go with the first convention, so if V1 was this voltage V1, okay, so I1 would be opposite to I2 here. Okay, so this is I1, which is equal to minus of I2 here. That means here the power is actually being sent at the primary side. The power is actually being, with respect to V1, power is actually being sent by the source there. Okay, okay, and with, let's say if I want to draw it with the second convention, then in that case, if phi is here, okay, we have seen that I won't talk about the V1 and the power thing here. So if it is E1, which is equal to V1 here, and they say this is V2 or E2, okay, so I2 would be actually lagging the voltage. So this is your I2 here at an angle of theta, lagging the voltage, secondary voltage V2. Okay, so if voltage is higher in the primary side, the current would be higher. So I1 would be here. Okay, this is fine. So we will stop here.